Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unique Peace, your podcast all about peace. And today I am very excited. I am joined by the lovely Franz Stein. He is a Reiki master teacher, he is a best selling author, he is a world renowned in what he does. He is also a teacher of my teacher. So I'm very excited to have him on and joining us. Franz? Welcome.
Hey, thank you for inviting me. Absolutely fantastic.
How are you today?
I am good, thank you.
So I I'm super excited to have you on because of a couple of reasons. You are my teacher's teacher, and I look forward to when you do things either virtually or when you come to the States and you're in my area. I want to be joining at that, partaking in that soon. And I just I recently taught a class for the first time, and I found that The Inner Heart of Reiki, one of your books, was actually just like a learning manual for me. It helped me teach, it helped me understand even deeper, like the symbols and the history, and it was very amazing. And I'm like so grateful for it because it's amazing.
Thank you.
So I want you to kind of share your story about how you found Reiki and how it has brought you to where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, that's a long story. No, it's not. But I was never really into all of these things. And except it's interesting. I was talking to my mother. I'm started to live in Holland again. And so my mom is 86. So the other day actually was brought up, like, how was I as a kid? Can you tell me? And she said, well, when you were a kid, you always wanted to give things away. You never, said, this is mine. Or so you always were like quite giving for everything. And I still feel I'm like that now. But yeah, also giving teachings, but things and for me, this is, in a way, if I really look back, maybe I was already into that place, but I really couldn't see it. So when I was 30, I had quite a lot of back problem and then some emotional stuff happening. And then we started to live in the Himalayas in India, Nepal. And I met this healer who was a female shaman in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And she did something and it blew my mind. I don't know if it lasted 1 minute or 1 day or 1 week. Of course, it wasn't 1 week, but so that's how it felt like. And it was really, well, like, holy sheesh, what just happened for me? And I could feel this energy and heat through my whole body. And it became kind of a healing journey for what is it? What can I feel? What can I sense? Why did it happen to me? And so I started to buy all these different books on Buddhism, yoga, Ayurvedic teachings. And one book was a Reiki book. And so then we met a Reiki teacher in Nepal, in Kathmandu. And what we learned was very modern. And then I remember we moved to Darjeeling, and there was this, we met this very young guy, Tibetan Buddhist, and he'd just been in a cave meditating for 3 years, mind you. And so I was very new, and he said, what is Reiki? He said, oh, you do healing with your hands. And he goes, oh, like this. Like, and I thought, I want what he's got. And so I started to really research where actually did the system of Reiki come from? What was the main ideas? And so the first time I went to Japan was 2001. And since 2012, been studying with a Japanese priest in Japan. And that really transformed a lot. And this is where the inner heart of Reiki or Reiki insights or the way of Reiki, my latest book, came from really finding that more deeper element of the system of Reiki. And as you said already, when we just chatted before, for me, it's also about peace, definitely about peace in many different layers.
Absolutely. It is. I tell my students myself, I said, it's personal before it ever becomes professional. If it
Oh,
becomes professional, wonderful, but it's always personal.
yeah. I think this is what we see now, I think, unfortunately, and this is not a bad thing, but unfortunately, in a lot of modern healing techniques, or even a lot of modern yoga, for example, we can do these teacher qualifications really quickly, and then it's really in our head, right? And it's not
Right.
really, it hasn't been embodied yet. And this for me is so important, that we embody it. I mean, this is also where my teacher really, I mean, his teacher was a very famous Buddhist priest in Japan, one of the most famous Buddhist priests of the last 100 years. And he was a marathon monk. And so in their tradition is really engaging with your mind, with your body, with your energy, into that direct experience, right?
Yeah.
Not just in your head. And therefore, for me, is really, as you say, it's first yourself. We first have to look at ourselves, and then maybe then we can slowly start to work with other people.
I totally. Um, so in the vein of that, and starting with yourself, how do you personally define peace?
Like if you look at the precepts in the system of Reiki, for example, we have a do not anger, do not worry, be grateful. Then the next sentence you can translate as practice this diligently, or be true to your way and your being, and then show compassion to yourself and others.
Yep.
So ultimately, I think there's many different layers to peace. So peace, first of all, be kind to people, right? Be kind to yourself, be kind to people. But on a very deeper layer is that when we within ourselves don't get agitated or worried or angry, then automatically this energy comes free, what is a very peaceful energy. And it's not mean that we're sitting with our eyes closed and we go like this. That's just a physical body posture. The person might actually be very agitated in her mind. We can be
Right.
laughing, we could be dancing, but the mind is really peaceful. And what that is, for me, actually, it is Zen master Senryu Suzuki. He wrote it very nicely. And he said, you leave the front door open and the back door open, and thoughts come in through the front door and go out the back door. And in the middle, you don't serve them tea. So then your mind becomes like a beautiful, calm lake. And when a mind is like a beautiful, calm lake, then also very quickly we can see if we get angry or worried, because suddenly we see this wave. But if we have lots of waves, it's very difficult to see. So therefore, the more we calm our mind, then the tension in the body already releases. Then we feel a certain blissful joy energy flowing, because there's no tension in our mind, body, and energy. And that in itself create a peacefulness.
Yes.
So I think it's a bit like that.
No, actually, I never heard that leave the front door, leave the back door, and then don't serve tea in between. I love that. That's kinda how I it's not 100%, but whenever I teach people meditation or walk through meditation, especially the individuals like, "I can't meditate, I can't meditate."
Mm,
Meditation is not easy. Let's acknowledge that first and foremost.
yeah.
But you let the thought if a thought enters while you are meditating, you're like, "I have to do the laundry." Okay, just let it go. It's like that thought came in, just let it
Yeah.
go. Laundry's still gonna be there when you open your eyes later. So I love that leave the front door, leave the back door. Don't I'm gonna use that. Don't serve tea on the way. It's like,
Yeah, I
that's
find
awesome.
it so also for myself. And then I go, oh, Franz, you're serving these thoughts tea again. And sometimes we all know that. Well, maybe we cannot sleep, and then at night is one thought. We just keep giving tea and tea and tea. And we go like, geez. So if we train ourselves not to get caught up in these thoughts, there is another very famous Tibetan Buddhist yogi, Tilopa. And he said, oh, it's not that the thoughts are the problem, but the way we cling to the thoughts. And then I see it a little bit like cling wrap. When you have cling wrap, everything becomes a bit sticky.
Yes, and you can't get it it's hard to cut it. It's very hard to get it.
Absolutely. So then we get all caught up in this clinginess, in this. And the more then we have that clinginess, we have these attachments, then our compassion and kindness, or that peacefulness, is most of the time it changes rapidly according to circumstances. So, for example, say we're friends, and I'm saying, oh, we're really compassionate to each other, and suddenly you say something to me and what irritates me, and then suddenly that compassion changes, and then we say, oh, actually I don't want to talk to you anymore. That might last 1 week or the rest of my life.
Right,
But
exactly.
that true peacefulness is the peacefulness what doesn't change according to circumstances. And I think this is a really important element what we sometimes get caught up in, because when we then talk about peace, then often we choose a side. We can clearly see this these days. And we could see it, I live in Holland, in Europe. There was the Second World War. I mean, there's all these stories too, that there's a lot of people, for example, in wars, don't want to fight. But if they're not fighting, they maybe get sentenced to death or hanged, or all these terrible things happen too. And so we cannot label everybody in that same vein. And therefore, for peace to really start to exist, we first have to be peaceful within ourselves. And if we also say, I don't like these people or that group of people or like this, then actually the peace in ourselves doesn't exist either.
Yes, I totally can understand that one because being human, we understand that, and there are times
Yeah,
where, yeah, there are certain people that their energy will grate, and you find yourself not at peace because then you go back to the rumination, the
yeah,
cling wrap.
yeah. Well, absolutely.
So Michael is out there saying hello to everybody. Welcome. So it's trying to find that peace, and it's acknowledging what's irritating within ourselves.
Yeah. For me, also, I'm not sure if you've heard this one. It comes from Taoism. I also studied with a Taoist teacher for 12 years. If you want to have peace in the world, you need to have peace in the country. If you want to have peace in the country, you need to have peace in your state. If you want to have peace in your state, you have to have peace in your province. If you want to have peace in the province, you need to have peace in your city. If you want to have peace in the city, you have to have peace in your family. If you want to have peace in your family, you have to have peace in yourself.
Right,
And,
the trickle-down theory.
absolutely. And so for me, like, we can talk blue in the face for peace, but it's not just talk, it's really an embodiment practice. Or Thich Nhat Hanh, he also wrote something beautiful. Don't know the exact quote, but he said, oh, peace is not something we hope for. Peace is what we do right now. And for me, this is really, if we look at Taoist teachings or Buddhist teachings or the system of Reiki or yoga or all of these practices, is where can we find this peace today within ourselves, so that today, in all the circumstances I encounter today, where can I then be very peaceful and kind? So peace for me is, again, not just sitting peacefully with my eyes closed. We can laugh, we can dance, but we have a peaceful mind. And due to this peaceful mind, we don't get angry and upset. And therefore, we can have this peaceful community. And it starts small. It is the people you encounter on your daily basis. We cannot suddenly say, let's have world peace, and we still feel shitheads ourselves, right?
Yes, and Grace
It's
is saying
impossible.
it is impossible. Grace is saying it's an inside job. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I think that's a Coca-Cola commercial.
Okay. It's still good. It's still good.
Yes, and peace is not the destination, but a mode of travel. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing. It's really right now. And so when we look, for example, at the precepts within the system of Reiki, we see do not anger. So most of the time we angry what happened in the past. So something what happened 1 second ago, 1 year ago, or 10 years ago. And when we look at worry, it's something what happens in the future. So when we always busy with anger and worry, we actually not living in the present moment.
Right.
And then, therefore, the precept, do not anger, do not worry, is about the past and the future. And then we have the precept, be grateful, that is really about the present moment. Most of the time, we also not really present. So we're not grateful about what is happening right
Right
now.
now.
And therefore, we cannot find that peace, right? We complaining about something. I was having dinner with a friend, and one of them said, "Oh, the waitress is taking a little bit of time," and you could see they were getting annoyed. I stood up. I just walked to the bar. Oh, we want to order something. Walk back. Problem solved. Right?
Right.
So, and I said, "Yeah, but why did you walk to the bar?" I said, "Well, we can get annoyed about it, but
Right.
what does it do to you? I mean, you look at you, you'll feel stressed, you feel worried, you get a bit upset, destroys the present moment, destroys your food, ultimately destroys the
Okay.
experience.
It
Or I
does.
can just stand up and say, oh, we just want to order something. Oh, sorry, I forgot something. Sometimes when I do that, I even get a free drink.
See? Works out.
So it's a really interesting thing, but we all have that power. We just need to see it.
So, in speaking of you taking control of that moment and being in the present moment and knowing that peace begins within, how do you find peace for yourself?
Definitely, first of all, doing a lot of my meditation practices on a daily basis. So really making sure I don't get caught up in what happened yesterday or what happens in the present moment. And if I do get caught up, that I can let that go, for example, that I can really say, deep breath. Like, for example, we messed up the time a little bit. So I had my nice video camera, etc., installed at home, and I go quickly home in a minute. So then I can get
No.
annoyed with myself, or I can get annoyed with you, or I get annoyed with the whole thing, or I can just say, well, it's just what it is. Now I just have to hold up my phone and get pain in my arm. But we can laugh about it. I think also when we find this, I see this a lot. I traveled a lot and I've trained with people from China. I've been in Hong Kong. I go to Japan, lived in the Himalayas in India. And when you look at these real traditional teachers, they have so much humor. They have so much joy. And then I look at a lot of the modern Western teachers, and don't get me wrong, but there is so much seriousness in it. And when we become too serious in our spiritual practice, in our meditation practice, that actually can really backfire on us in our daily life.
Yeah.
Because daily life, ultimately, no matter what happens, we need to meet it with lightheartedness. We need to meet it with an open mind. And therefore, the more we feel light, often in Christianity or Buddhism or Hinduism or yogic traditions, we talk about light. Light is playful. Look at the light playing on the trees, in spring. Look at the light playing on the water. It ripples and it's playful. And therefore, I think also peace is really a kind of playfulness in the present moment where we dance in that present moment. So I do my daily meditation practices, but then I try as much as possible to engage in my local community, or if I travel, to be peaceful, but also be kind. Like, how are you this morning? What's happening? Oh, you look a bit sad. Can I help you? Or just little things like this. And I think that is really where the ripple effect starts to take place.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Because sometimes, as a traveler or just like I'm not in the PTA, but I'm involved in my son's sports. We're part of the clubs and everything, and it can be very easy to get annoyed with the people that you have to interact with.
Yeah.
And I try very hard to step away from that and let them do their own thing. It's like, okay, what are my dues due? when do we have to show up? And that's kind of where it's at, to bring myself, peace. But within that community, you still have to engage and be kind and be nice,
Yeah.
even when others are not. And that
This
can
is
be hard.
absolutely, this is, I like, if I have a free day or free morning, I like to go for a coffee to the coffee bar. And they just have a new girl working there. I know the owners and they've become really good friends. So, but this new young girl. And so the other day she said to me, Franz, when you sit here, I'm not sure, but everybody talks to you. Everybody says hello, but you always engage with them as well. What do you do? And so for me, that was actually beautiful to hear, in a way, not from an egocentric way, but to see that even someone who just started to work there, that they can notice it, that there is something different, but means I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay with engaging with people, with making people smile. It's not that difficult. Peace for me is also a smile. When you smile at someone, you know you've got a beautiful smile when you smile
Thank
at
you.
someone. Or even saying that. The other day I was at a cafe and these two people sat next to me, and I said to the one, I said, wow, you've got a beautiful smile. And it doesn't matter for me if it's a man or a woman, if they're old or young. If I see something, I will say it. And they even smiled more so, right? And then the other person they were with, they started to smile. And it's this wonderful ripple effect, what we can have. But for me to have a ripple effect, I see it a bit like this. I compare it always with a lake. So if a lake is frozen, so if my mind and heart is really frozen, anger, worry, fear, anxiety, attachments, then my action will not have a ripple effect. My smile, my love will not have a ripple effect. But if my mind is like a beautiful, clear, calm lake, you can put one little pebble in it and there's a huge ripple effect.
Yes.
So the more our mind is really that peaceful, that calm, like a wide ocean, you drop one movement, one thought, one expression, one word in it, and it can be this wonderful ripple effect.
I love that. Yes. We know about the ripple effect, but we don't know about the ripple effect. It's like we know how it works,
Yeah.
but when we see it in our own lives, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And I think this is really where peace needs to start in our own community. First of all, in your relationship with yourself, first of all, right?
Yeah.
As some of the viewers have said already, begins with you. And there's a wonderful book by a Tibetan Lama. It's called When the Chocolate Runs Out, something like that.
I think that sounds like a horrible story.
I know. But I love the title because normally we find this peace or this happiness in chocolate or in this or in all these other things. But actually we need to find it within. And when we find this joy, happiness, this playfulness, that peacefulness, then something very different happens with our mind, body, and energy. And then some people who are sensitive enough for it, they can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And here is an interesting, maybe I'm talking too much, but here's an interesting concept. In Reiki 2, there is a mantra. And if you literally translate it, it means actually my original nature is right mind. Often nowadays it's used for distance healing. But this, yeah, that's it. So, Honsa Seishinen. And what is really interesting, this teaching actually comes from Japanese esoteric teachings, and where these teachers say everything is interconnected. If we realize it or not, everything is still interconnected. I mean, we're breathing the same air. There's not a specific air for France or a specific air for you. We're all interlinked in that space.
Right.
And so they actually say, for example, the heating up of the earth, for example, or tsunamis or earthquakes. One element what is also responsible for this is our minds, because we imagine we have one person walking into the room who's angry. We can feel it.
Yes.
Now imagine 2 million people who are angry. Imagine 50 million people who are angry. This is going to have an effect somewhere. Of course, makes perfect sense. We often say, you see it when we have full moon. The full moon is going to affect me. Well, if I get affected by the full moon, then we can affect the moon as well, because it's never a one-way street. It's impossible. So this is what they say. They say if you really want to have peace on earth or heaven on earth, then we need to make sure that our minds stay calm. Then everything calms down.
Right. And we see it in classrooms with small children.
Yeah.
We see it even with teenagers. And I mean, those rough teenagers right now, they're, that ebb and flow and roller coaster. I know you're aware of it. They're like, who are you? What did you do with my kid? But learning to be calm so that they stay calm, or at least see you as a safe space to come. It does have to come from me first. And then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I like that, when I use it often in class as well. And I say, like we talk about heaven on earth. We don't say heaven in heaven. What means heaven is right here in this physical world, the embodiment. And so when we really feel this embodiment within ourselves, then we realize we are the universe. In Taoism also, I'm the universe is me. So therefore, there is already these elements at play where we know this. We intellectually might know it, but the whole practice is really about becoming aware of it, that if I'm the whole universe, then whatever I do has a reaction of the whole universe. And therefore, for world peace, it really begins by the individual, so that we can really feel that whatever action I do has a ramification somewhere.
Right. Absolutely. And Angela, she going back to your moon reference really quick, never thought about how we affect the moon, just how the moon affects us.
Yeah, I mean, I always say, like, for example, you see a wall behind me, and then if I put my hand against the wall, then we say France is touching the wall. But that is not really the truth. It is just one perspective, because the wall is touching me at the same time.
Yeah.
So if I put my hands on another person, they will say France is touching, say, Angela. But that's not true, because at the same time, Angela is touching me.
Right.
France is touching the cup is touching me. So it is always a two-way street, but we don't see this. It's the same when we do, for example, in the system of Reiki, hands-on healing. And we say France is doing hands-on healing on Betty, and that healing goes one way. But that is not really the truth, because Betty is touching me, right?
Yeah, and that is one thing where the way Lorraine teaches, and the way that most of us who've studied under Lorraine teach, is it's a two-way street, and it's the West meets the East, or the East and the West, where you learn certain aspects. Then you dig a little deeper, and you're like, oh wait, this isn't how it was originally done. So I love that aspect. And what's great is when I'm working on somebody, when I'm doing a healing on somebody, I let them know, it's like I go where the energy tells me. So wherever your energy wants me to be is where I go. Yeah. And you receive whatever it is you need. I'm just helping the process here. So we're both responsible. Yeah. We're both responsible.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the both is about letting go, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a trust.
Because the trust. And your trust, I think, I often say there's one thing what is essential, and that is, starts with a T. It's a trust. Trust in yourself to let go. Trust in the facilitator, that they know what they're doing. And it's just like any kind of relationship, isn't it?
Yes. Absolutely.
No, and for me, therefore, also, when we think these days, when we talk about Reiki, we think about hands-on healing, but traditionally the word Reiki meant that you remember your true nature. And that true nature had the name Reiki. Yeah. So in Japanese, sometimes called kami, or divine being, or Buddha nature, or in Mikusui's words, great bright light. And for me, I see it a bit like this. If we imagine this great bright light, and we have a lamp, and we take the lampshades away, then that light emanates further out into the room. Yeah. And this is something interesting. The light itself never changed. The light was already on.
Yeah.
Right? But the light emanates now further into the room. So often I use also the image of the sky. Like today in where I live is very cloudy. And then when the clouds part, we might say, oh, there is more sunshine. Not really. The sun suddenly didn't have more rays. The sun was already shining. We were just not aware of it. Right. But when the clouds part, then we can all bask in that sun. So the more we let go of these layers, what obscures our inner light, what is already perfect, what is already beautiful right now, right today, just like the sun, then when we emanate this light, this energy, this love, this peace, this kindness into the daily world, then people who are walking with you or you come in contact with, there is already a possibility for healing to happen.
Yeah. I've been in very crowded rooms where my hands just get on fire. That's how I know that I need to like put healing out into the room, and nobody really knows that I'm doing it. And it's kind of, for me in that aspect, because this was happening a lot at one office where it was like I would go into my supervisor's office and my hands would just be on fire, and I can't like go up to the boss and say, oh, I think you need some help. It was just like, put it out, calm the room down, calm her down, send a lot of light. And she didn't really know what was happening, but I would leave there and she would feel calmer.
Yeah.
And the lesson, and I believe it is in Reiki too, where it's incorporated, is the lampshade that you were going to. We would use a lamp, and then there's a bunch of like scarves or blankets, and the more you take them off and you peel back. And I love that lesson, because then you're like, she actually takes the lampshade off and you're just left with the bright light bulb.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, are you aware of your light? What are you aware? What shades are you putting on, and what needs to be removed? I love it. It's kind of like the onion too.
Yeah, it's like the onion. And I think it's like, I think also with a lot of healing, then we go, oh, but we need to ask permission for healing. And I go like, when I walk on the street, excuse me, do you mind if I smile at you? Of course, we're not going to do this, right? We're also not going to say, oh, I ring up my sister and go, do you mind if I now just have a negative thought about you? Of course, we don't say this either, right? But suddenly, when it comes to healing, we for whatever strange reason, we need to ask permission. But the sun doesn't ask permission to shine. The rain doesn't ask permission to rain. And yet, from the rain, we take according what we need. But the most important thing is, because the sun and the rain fall unconditionally. And this is the thing, as soon as we say, you need to receive this because I think, then that is something else. But if we can just allow, here is my peaceful light of love and kindness. I don't care. You want to take it all, you take it all. You want nothing, you take nothing. It's fine. I'm just going to be the light.
Yes.
And that's it.
And I love that. That's beautiful. And that actually leads to the next question. And that's, how do you bring peace to others? So you shed some light on that throughout the conversation, but how do you feel you bring peace to others?
Well, it's an interesting thing. I mean, there's different ways of doing this. Of course, people can come and do a class, and then you can train them how to do specific meditation practices, like what you're doing. So that's one way, and then hopefully over time. But I think I'm a quite a social person. For a long time, almost 15 years, I lived on a mountaintop, were quite remote, so I was very insular. But now, since the last 6 years, I live outside of Amsterdam, and so I walk through town a lot. I like walking. I'm not a sports person, so I engage a lot with people. And what I've noticed too, that if you are kind to a person, or you laugh with them, or you be very open with them, then you also give permission for them to be open and laughing. So, like, I'm sometimes people say, Frans, you're like a spiritual clown. I like to laugh and do silly things. But if you do this, automatically you can see another person to go, hey, Frans is doing that, and no one is going crazy about it. I quite like to also laugh. And and so this is really important, that we also realize that we can be an example of kindness in the world. And if we see that it's okay to say to a complete stranger, wow, I love your shoes, man, or wow, great dress. These days we get so caught up in all of that. These days we cannot say almost anything, unfortunately,
Right.
because we completely misinterpret it. And is a really tricky situation. I was speaking to a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, and he said, we have a lot of issues these days. And he gave some examples, and I go, wow. I said, unbelievable, like how we twist these things, unfortunately. And I understand, completely understand from one aspect. But if we really want to have peace, then that we really need to make sure to see when someone says something, if we can see from which place they're saying it.
Yeah.
And this is the most important element. I can say to someone, you look beautiful, man or woman, doesn't matter, young or old, doesn't matter. If I say it from an attachment viewpoint, or maybe a certain need, then that might not be so good. But if I say it like the sun, who just shines beautiful light without any specific intention, just to say, if we can start to feel this and see this in a way, then it becomes something quite different.
Yes.
And here, I tell you an experience I had the other day. I went out to a little band. It's a small venue, so maybe 500-600 people. I like dancing, so I went dancing with some friends, a few couples. And so I was dancing, and there were two women a little bit further out, and one of these ladies made some eye contact. So I looked and smiled, and she smiled back. And then a few minutes later, or a bit longer later, there were three guys behind me, and their energy was a little bit.
Gotcha.
So these three guys went to these two women, and they, how do you want to drink something for us? But they were really pushy.
Right. Yeah.
And so I hear the girl saying, no, I don't want anything to drink from you guys. And then she taps her friend on the shoulder. She points to me. I smile at them. And then they come and walk over to me. And we dance the whole evening.
Right.
They leave. I get 2 kisses on each cheek from both of them. I said, wow, thank you for being such a nice guy. My intention was not there to pick up someone or to do something. I just wanted to dance. And in that dancing, I just wanted to radiate light. So my intention was different. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You definitely, I have said this many times, and I've tried to explain it to my son. I think he's catching on. It's the energy that we give and project out. And I know I'm guilty of it, and whether intentionally or unintentionally, but I've also been the recipient of, you could give one person a set of energy and then a different person a different set of energy and be in the same room at the same time.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's a concept that's kind of hard for some people to understand, is that you can do that. It's like, I really like this person, I'm giving them good energy, and I really don't like you, I'm giving you not good energy. And the whole thing is to come in just as you are and just like, "Okay, this is cool," and not absorb and not send out those negative vibes, which sometimes is hard because the ego gets involved.
It's really tricky, and this is why we have to keep practicing, no matter if it's yoga or Tai Chi or Buddhism or the system of Reiki, that we have a certain tool where we can go within, where this radiant light is, without any judgment, and just be open and kind, no matter who or what. But unfortunately, sometimes this also can be misinterpreted in a wider context. We might be very kind to someone and said, "Oh, what do you want?" Like years ago, I gave someone a book. I was reading a book and I was almost finished, and this person, this lady said, "Oh, what are you reading?" I said, "I'm reading this book." "Oh, it looks like a nice book." So I finished it. I said, "Here, you got it." And she got a bit upset. What do you want from me? Like, I want nothing.
Have the book.
Just have the book. I might throw it in a bin. I'm finished with it. So, but this is therefore we come to that trust again. Huh? If I don't have trust in myself, then it's very difficult to be trustworthy to other people. If I don't have trust in myself, then to receive is also very difficult, because there is already a layer of there's something fishy. And really, if we look at the world in general, most people are being kind. There's a few people who do stupid stuff, but we cannot block ourselves off just because of a few people.
Right.
And because if we do this, then we as bad as the other people.
Right. And it comes down to the first two precepts 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Those are very the first two are very important, because not angering, because as human beings with egos, we can get angered easily.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And not worry. We're in a constant state of straddling the past and the future and not really being in the present.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it really comes down to those first two precepts to have the trust. And sometimes the trust is hard because we're stuck, not really focused on the first two precepts that, just for today I will not anger, just for today I will not worry. And it's like, okay, well, I need to be grateful. And it's like, I used to do, I still do actually, a gratitude list. And it's like, okay.
Beautiful to do. Yeah.
What it started off simple, like 5 things, and now I could probably list 100 or more things every day that to be grateful for, that I'm grateful for.
And there is so much to be grateful for. I had Tibetan friends over for 8 days. They don't have anything. They live in the Himalayas. He still has to carry water to the house every morning. They are almost 60. She has rheumatoid arthritis. She has to be taken to the bathroom. She has to be washed. She has to be dressed. They are so, like, every day when they were at my place, staying at my place, I was crying just because they were so beautiful with each other. They were so loving, so caring to people, to objects, to anything. It blew my mind. Like, literally, like, I hadn't seen them for 27 years. And it was so wonderful to see them, how they're dealing with their situation. I went 3 times through all my wardrobes to give them a lot of stuff. I had this little metal bottle you buy at the local supermarket for like €3. It was with some, like a syrup. You put some syrup in, you mix it with water. And it was finished, and I put it on the shelf to, now, Frans, okay, can we take this bottle? Of course. We went to Amsterdam. They took it with them. Every time they took a little sip of this bottle, Frans, thank you for the bottle. I mean, look at this bottle. It's so great. We take so many things for granted. And for me, therefore, when we take too much for granted, we also miss that peacefulness. Because we get greedy. I want more. I want more clothes. I want a better car. I want this. I'm dissatisfied with this. We are so lucky in the where you and I live. We're so lucky in a way We
Oh,
have, in reality, nothing to be not grateful for. Like, we have a meal, we can talk like this, we have clothes, we don't have rockets flying around, we have food. And so, but still, for most people, we cannot even find this gratefulness. And then we scream about peace. And I go, hang on, what are you trying to do?
right. Exactly. Exactly. And it's very funny, not funny, but it's interesting that you say, like, whenever my son or I outgrow a coat, or we just haven't worn things for a certain amount of time, it's like, okay, if we're never going to wear this, somebody else can use it. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
definitely, I we go through and we donate. Sometimes I don't do it as often as I would like, but it's like I literally was in my closet. I haven't worn this in a year. When am I if I'm not gonna throw it into the wear, rotation, then it shouldn't be mine anymore. It belongs to
Absolutely.
somebody else. And it's like, I think my son's done growing, but he has so many things that he doesn't wear. I'm like, "If you're not gonna wear this, put it in the donation bag because
Absolutely.
somebody else will wear it. Somebody else needs it." And that's one thing that we need to teach the kids more of. It's like if you're done with it and it's
Yeah.
in wearable good shape, donate it. If you're done with it, if it's a toy and it's not destroyed, there's a kid out there who's gonna love that.
Yeah. I think this is really, and you see it more and more. I teach a lot around the world, and I was just recently in London. I'm going to Paris, but even also here in Amsterdam, lots of secondhand stores are opening now, what is fantastic. But I was thinking also, when we want to give something, we have to open our hand, huh?
Yes.
We have to let it go. So for me also, when I think about peace, sometimes we go like, we want peace, we want peace. We like this. I can understand, because sometimes we need to be a bit more loud. But isn't it better to go like this?
Yes.
Because if I go like this, I'm actually not better off than other people, because I'm still really angry. I'm still really frustrated. I still have a destructive energy of anger, worry, whatever. But if I'm opening my hand, then automatically I can give and automatically I can receive. So the action of opening our hand is both actually at the same time giving and receiving, because it's the same action. So sometimes I hear people, I said, oh, I'm always so kind. I'm always so kind.
I'm kind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like this, right? And I'm really righteous, and I'm really like this, and people don't respect me. I go like,
Your body's telling a different story.
that's it. So we can be, we think that this is, like, and I think these days, and it's good. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. It's good. We have to speak up. But if we keep speaking up like this, it's not so good. I don't think that is a really way of peace. For peace, we need to be peace. Or,
Mhm.
like, if we look at Thich Nhat Hanh, when he says, peace is not a hope, peace is what we plant now. So if I plant an apple seed, I get apples. I don't get bananas. If I plant bananas, I don't get apples, I get bananas. It's very
Right.
simple. So if I'm always angry about other people who are not being peaceful, I'm planting anger. And therefore, I will get angry. I will be consumed by anger. And in the end, I will be exactly the same as the people who are fighting a war. So I need to make sure that if I want peace, I need to plant peace. And this is, for me, a really important thing. So, how can we then have a peaceful movement for peace and not an angry movement for peace?
Right. And that's a good question that I think we're all struggling with.
I think so. I had a student somewhere. He likes to be anonymous, somewhere in the world, and he's a big protester, and in a big protesting movement. And years ago, when he started to come to the Reiki classes, he says, now I see actually what I'm doing. He said, I'm going to train people how to do peaceful demonstrations instead of throwing with bricks and those kind of things.
Yeah.
And for him, that changed a lot. And it changed a lot in the organization they were working for.
Right.
And for me, I think this is so much better. Like if we look at Gandhi, for example, where there's this peaceful movement, and then we still feel peaceful within ourselves. Because if I'm constantly angry about society, like say for half the day I'm angry about society, then it's very difficult to switch suddenly to be loving, kind husband.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So it's not going to work. There will always be problems like this. So I need to see somehow, how can we start a movement of peaceful warriors, in a way, right? Yeah. Who are actually peacefully talking and discussing and being caring and not constantly pointing this finger. And I think this, again, comes to self-responsibility, because we want peace. We scream for peace. We fight for peace. But in our self-responsibility, we forget peace within ourselves.
And yeah. And Angela had put up, she goes, when she finds herself complaining about things, she has to stop and think about how blessed she is. So that goes back to gratitude as well.
Gratitude. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, like we have water, we've got food. I lived in India for 2 years. And after that, I complained less and less about things, because, like, geez, we're so lucky. We're so lucky with things, right? And of course, sometimes days is shitty, but we have a place, we have a bed, we can sleep. We don't have to sleep outside on a carpet box. We have food. Most of us, we're healthy, and yet we get so caught up with stuff. We give these thoughts tea all the time. And that's, I think, also why we're very restless. We cannot find this peace, because we're constantly feeding these thoughts about particularly the past and the future. And it's okay to think about the past, but don't make it your present moment, where the past is so caught up with you that you forget to live in the present moment.
Right. No, and that's true. That's true about worry too. It's like, don't spend time in the past and the future and forget about the present.
Yeah.
Because the future hasn't happened yet. And if you take up residency in the past, you're never going to move forward to the future anyway.
This is it. And in Japan, they have a wonderful saying: if you want to know how your past was, look in the present moment, because the past was the seed for what is happening today.
Yeah.
If you want to know how the future is going to be, also look in the present moment, because today is the seed for the future.
Yeah.
But nowadays, what happened in my past? We go to readers. Don't get me wrong. It's okay. We go to readers. We want to know what we're happening. And we constantly focus, in the past, I was trauma, this and this and this. And then we constantly want to project things to the future. And then we forget to really be present now, because now is the moment we can plant the seed of kindness, of peace, of love, of openness, contentment. It's not in the past. It's also not going to happen in the future if you're not doing it right now.
I agree with you. And so that also leads to the next question. I think we're kind of getting there with this answer, is what's in your toolbox? Like, you have a student who's like really stressed out or preoccupied during class, and you're like, okay, I need you here. What's in your toolbox? Just kind of like bring them into the peaceful moment of now.
Yeah, I think this is, for me, one essential thing stands out these days, and that is we are so not in tune with our body. We're so in our heads, constantly asking why, how, where. We see spirituality often something outside of ourselves. Even Reiki, we see something what hangs magically somewhere in the sky. Spiritualities where we may be somehow zoned out. But actually, it's really being in your body. It's because it's in your body that you need to bring this peacefulness So, for example, in the precepts in the system of Reiki, we see the word today. It doesn't say on your yoga mat, doesn't say on your meditation pillow, it doesn't say on a massage table. It says today. So today in Japan means in every action we're doing today. Integrate this. And this is action we do with our body. We move, right? We walk, we sit, we constantly engaging with our body. So grounding and centering, I think these days is essential for bringing peace into our daily life. So yeah, breathing practices what really focuses on the center of your body. So that is just below your belly button. In Japanese, it's called the hara or tanden, or in Chinese, dantian, really feeling rooted. Because if I'm not centered and the wind of society comes, where I see about a war or injustice or whatever, then I'm really quickly blown over and I feel overwhelmed, I feel stressed, then I cannot be peaceful. I cannot have a peaceful society because I'm blown over. I feel like this. So to be able to do this, we need to really make sure that we go within our body. This is also where we store our trauma. This is why for a lot of people these days, we don't want to go in our body. We don't want to look at our shit. We rather blame it on someone else.
Right.
And this is a wonderful saying in Taoism. They say, if you blame someone else, you're way off the path. If you blame yourself, you're a little bit more on the path. If you don't blame anybody, you're on the path.
Nice. I've never heard that one.
Oh, I like this also because then it comes back to our self-responsibility. Huh?
Yes. Accountability and responsibility for where we're at and who we're at, or who we are
and how we react to things. Of course, there is injustice. There's terrible things happening. The way we can really do it. Imagine that suddenly, instead of we all go, oh, peace, 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 we're like this. We all calm down. Shut the fuck up and calm.
Yes.
Excuse my leg. But you know what I'm trying to say? We calm down. Go into your body. Find that inner peace within yourself. Automatically, outer peace will manifest.
Yes. Yes. Again, it comes back to the energy we bring. And I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, Franz, I thank you so much for being here and talking peace with us. And I know it's a slightly cloudy day in Holland, but I am very glad that you see the sunshine still and
absolutely.
all the energy you bring. And we're going to put you in the green room for a moment, and I'll be right back. Thank you, everyone, for joining me and Franz on this beautiful Sunday. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. And everything that you do today, may it be peaceful. Thank you.